and I made him watch. Hello and welcome to And I Made Him Watch, the podcast where I make my husband watch weird movies and discuss how weird it really got. I'm your host, Danny Page, and here with me, my partner in crime and husband by law, the filmmaker himself, Troy Allen. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Doing okay.
I like how you said by law.
Yes, I mean, it's a legal binding document. So I made you watch The House by the Cemetery, completing our journey through Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy.
Yeah.
This has been a wild ride. Personally, I enjoyed this experience with you, but I'm so glad to be moving on.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The House by the Cemetery. Oh boy. So we have the Boyle family, right? Norman, or that's Dr. Norman Boyle, actually. Lucy and Bob. Norman takes the place of one of his colleagues who's like researching like historic houses or something. And this colleague kind of offs himself along with his mistress, leaving his research project to Norman. So the Boyle family move into this creepy haunted house. There's creepy children crying. It's a dissociating like nanny, a killer bat, and don't forget the zombie. Don't forget Bob's girlfriend, May, a girl that may or may not be a ghost. Who knows? But everyone kind of dies. I think. I'd probably give this like a 5 out of 10. Definitely. Now that it's over, how are you feeling about the trilogy?
So overall,
Yeah.
I would not watch these again. But I could see how they could be, attractive to some people. Especially given like the special effects and the horror esque themes. So yeah, I mean they're not terrible, but
No, definitely not terrible.
Not for me though, for sure.
Yeah, you have to have a specific type of taste and be looking for something very on the head with these types of movies.
Mm-hmm.
After kind of reviewing the movies I've watched in the past that are like this, I kind of like Italian horror. I kind of lean towards Italian horror, apparently, which I didn't know until I started doing more research about what I was watching. So that was kind of interesting. It's been interesting for me to do this research after all 4 of the movies we watched these past episodes. So the infamous trio, that's Fulci, Saccati, and Maurizio, worked together on this last installment of the Gates of Hell trilogy. We talked about all 3 of them in previous episodes, so if you're interested on knowing a little bit about them, you can read the last 2 or listen to the last 2 episodes. We see the 3rd return of Catriona McCoyle, or Catherine McCoyle, as she's credited in this movie, and she was credited as Catherine in The Beyond as well. We also see a few other familiar faces like Gianpaolo Saccorarola, which is Daniel Douglas in this one. But he was also the actor who played Arthur in The Beyond.
I thought he looked familiar.
Yes. We also see Carlo De Mejo back, who played Father Thomas in City of the Living Dead, but he plays Mr. Wheatley in this film. So we'll have to... Yep. I can't remember who Mr. Wheatley was. Oh, I think he was the librarian. The library. Also, that library they used was the same library they used in The Beyond. Just so you know.
Oh, where Martin falls off the damn ladder and stuff.
Yes, from The Beyond, yes.
Yeah.
Paolo Malcol, plays Dr. Norman Boyle. Malcol was born April 10th, 1947 in La Spezia, Liguria, Italy.
Close enough.
Probably not. I feel bad for that. He is best known for his roles in horror films such as The House by the Cemetery, The New York Ripper, which was another Fulci movie. He also appeared in a few TV miniseries in Italy. He was in a soap opera, Centro Vitrine from 2008 to 2010. He also worked in theater and he starred in a few musicals in the late 70s. He's still active in the film and TV industry, with his latest appearance being in the movie A Room with a View in 2007. So that's not very, very recent. He has a very versatile and expressive acting style, and he's been praised for his performance in both drama and thriller genres. He's also apparently one of the most recognizable and respected actors in Italy's cinema and television. So, kind of impressive. Ania Peroni portrays the stoic and somewhat clueless babysitter Anne. Ania was born February 28th in 1958 in Rome, Italy. She had a very pretty short but well-rounded acting career with only 10 accredited roles. Her first movie was Stay As You Are from 1978, and she plays a pretty minor role in that. But the movie is about a man who is stuck in a bad marriage and has an affair with a teenager who could be his daughter. So it's pretty gross, pretty yuck. 70s, man. 70 movies were something.
Yeah.
She also was in the movie Inferno, and she was also in the movie Inferno in 1980, which is a movie about the siblings trying to solve a series of killings happening in Rome and New York. She was offered to revisit her role from that movie in 2007 in the film Mother of Tears, but declined since she had retired in 1985. And then from 1985 to the early 90s, she was a director for the local Rome TV station GBR. Okay. Our boy Bob is played by Giovanni Frieza. He was born September 8th, 1972. He has a very short career as an actor, having retired when he was 13, and is only accredited with 9 roles. His debut was a minor role in Salto nel Vuoto, or A Leap in the Dark. It tells the story of Moro, a judge who is concerned about his sister Marta, who suffers from a mental illness and has suicidal tendencies. He introduces her to Giovanni, a charismatic actor who seems to help her overcome her depression. However, Muro soon becomes jealous and suspicious of Giovanni and tries to sabotage their relationship. It's a very complex movie. He was actually in another Fulci movie called Manhattan Baby. This one was about a girl possessed by a supernatural amulet. Maybe we should watch that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down.
You'd be willing to watch more Fulci?
Yeah, I mean, Fulci wasn't bad.
Yeah.
You know, overall, because I think, as far as as I like to call them, spaghetti horrors, I think they're kind of unique in a way.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So I'd be definitely down for that.
Okay. So as of now, Frieza is working as the director of product development at Molex LLC, which is a tech company. Bob's ghost, quote unquote, girlfriend. I hate how Bob references her as in the movie as his girlfriend, because they're a little too young to be like speaking like that. It's weird. Anyway, May is played by Sylvia Colatine. Colatine was born January 14th, 1972 in Rome. Her debut came in an episode of the documentary Child Psychology when she was only 5 years old. Her first featured film was The Great Alligator River from 1979, a movie about a revengeful god taking the form of a giant man-eating crocodile that torments and attacks tourists. Sounds pretty good actually. Like, that sounds like something up my alley.
Yeah.
She was also in another Fulci movie called Murder Rock from 1984. In this, Fulci creation is about a killer using a hairpin needle to go around murdering students from a dance academy.
Huh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then in 1984, she quote-unquote retired from acting, and then early 2000s, she began to attend horror conventions and festivals as like a special guest. She's done some voiceovers in the mid-2000s and is listed on her wiki that she has some roles in more recent projects, but they're still in production and haven't been released yet. So she's still active. I want to take some time to mention Giovanni Di Nava, who is the man behind the mask as Dr. Fraudstein. Giovanni was also Joe the plumber from The Beyond.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our boy Joe back at it again.
Yeah, he's working hard. There's not much about him on the internet, but he also was in Fulci's Murder Rock movie. So maybe we will watch Murder Rock, but that's going to be down the line.
Yeah, we need a break from
Fulci.
man.
Yeah, we do. We need a little break. So we're still in Fulci's Lovecraft obsession era, which I'm not sure he ever really got out of. Just saying.
Yeah.
After The Beyond and The Black Cat, which I mentioned in the last episode, he wanted to make a tribute to the author without basing it on like actual one of his stories. I feel like he really hit the mark with this goal though. We can see several of the Lovecraftian themes within this movie, like the presence of a hidden and ancient evil that lurks beneath the surface of reality. In this case, the basement of a house where the Boyle family moves in.
Yeah, so this whole movie is just pretty wild. I mean, I get that it's kind of, Lovecraftian in a way, but it definitely stands alone as its own thing for sure.
Oh, yeah. We also see the theme of forbidden and dangerous knowledge, as the protagonist, Norman, is a researcher who becomes obsessed with finding out the truth about Dr. Fraudstein and his experiments. The theme of madness, as Norman and his wife Lucy start to experience hallucinations and nightmares and paranoia as they stay in the house. Their son Bob also sees visions of a ghostly girl who warns him to stay away from the house. The theme of fate, inevitability, as the film ends with this bleak and hopeless twist that suggests that the family was doomed from the start.
Interesting. I like how you said paranormal though, because his name is Norman.
Yep.
Paranorman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of fits.
Sacchetti contribution in this creation of the film, he used some of his personal experiences as a child. Apparently he lived in a big farmhouse when he was born, and they had a large and this ominous dark basement. And then he had to cross a graveyard when he was walking home when he was like really young. So he used that kind of in this story.
Yeah, but I would also like to point out that in this film, at least in those opening scenes, it kind of seemed like the house was not necessarily by the cemetery, but like in the cemetery.
Yeah.
Like the cemetery was like,
The front yard.
yeah.
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 He also was inspired by Henry James's horror novella, The Turn of the Screw, from 1898. That tells the story of a young governess who was hired to take care of two orphan children, Miles and Flora, at the remote country estate called Bly. She soon becomes convinced that the children are haunted by ghosts of their former caretakers, Peter Quint and Miss Jessel, who had a scandalous affair and died under mysterious circumstances. Does that sound familiar
Is that
to
the
you?
premise of The Haunting of Bly Manor?
It is. It was the
Nice.
same novella that inspired Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Bly Manor.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
I love that show.
It was pretty good. It was pretty
Yeah.
good. There was a bit of drama when writing the screenplay. The original story was written by Elisa Briganti, who worked on several of Fulci's movies. The story went through a lot of editing by Fulci and Maurizio. Fulci seemed to be pretty unhappy with Sacchetti's involvement and complained later in his biography that his contributions were very similar to another movie called The House That Screamed. The film takes place in the 19th century French boarding school for troubled girls. A strict headmistress and her son hide a dark secret while the students start to disappear one by one, possibly killed by the mysterious murderer. After looking into it and comparing the two films, there's some similarity, but I don't think it's enough to complain about. But that's just my personal opinion. Maurizio made the comment that he was a script doctor for the screenplay due to Sacchetti's being too short. His script was too short. And Sacchetti claimed that this was due to his busy schedule, or having to go work on another film, and also refusing to make changes that Fulci wanted. So they argued a little bit about that. The trio argued over this while working on the screenplay for the film. All three did work on one more movie together called The New York Ripper in 1982. It's a giallo film as well about a detective who hunts down a serial killer who mimics the sound of a duck. Do you want to watch The New York Ripper with me?
I mean, I guess ducks are pretty scary.
Oh, yeah.
Creepy.
I mean, ducks are kind of violent in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I get that. But
Yeah.
Swans though.
And geese are pretty violent too.
Yeah,
The
why?
territorial type of animals.
Yeah. But overly violent. Like, I feel like a swan holding a kitchen knife, would fit right in.
Yeah.
Most scenarios.
So, The House by the Cemetery was the third most successful film of Fulci. Based on the profit, the film had a budget of $600,000 and a gross of $1.4 million. So the profit of roughly about $800,000. So not bad at all, I don't think. It was shot in New York City, Boston, and Concord, Massachusetts. The Oak Mansion for the Fronstein House, or the Oak Mansion, was filmed at Ellis Estate. The Ellis Estate is a historical property in Scituate?
Where's that at?
Scituate? Scituate.
Yeah.
Saratoga?
I don't know.
You don't, it's weird.
Yep.
Massachusetts. That covers 96 wooden acres of trail conservation land. The centerpiece of the estate is the Bly Ellis House, a large and imposing house that was built in 1830 by John Wade Bailey, who was a wealthy merchant and ship owner. The house was later renamed Ellsberg by his grandson Walter Ellis, who was a prominent lawyer and politician. The house is now the headquarters for the Arts Association, and it's open to the public for tours and events. The house was also used in the 1988 Ghost House movie, where a haunted house kills a group of paranormal enthusiasts who are lured in there by a radio signal and a clown doll. It sounds like a great movie to do an episode about. There's been so many movies I've learned about that I want to watch now.
Yeah, the fact that like anything clown related like attracted someone to it, like I don't know, you were asking for it.
I do not like clowns.
Ooh.
Clowns are
creepy.
Yep. Okay. Let's get into it.
Yay.
The movie starts in the infamous Oak Mansion. The movie starts in the infamous Oak Mansion, and we experience the first nudity and only nudity in the trilogy. And when I first watched it, I was a little taken back. It's not like I find nudity offensive or anything. It's just a shock because it's the first time we've seen it in the last 3 movies. And it's right off the bat, too. Like, just the first thing in the movie. We have this pan of the graveyard a little bit, an exterior shot, and breasts.
Yeah, like titties right out the gate.
Just right out the gate, titties.
Nice.
Anyway, this young woman is looking for her boyfriend, Steve, in this creepy-ass house. She's wandering around searching for him and can't find him and threatens to leave, which she really should have because fuck this, honestly. It's revealed that someone has killed Steve, and she is then stabbed in the back of the head and then through her mouth by a mysterious hand. So it's pretty gory already. And it's the most violent beginning of all the movies, of all 3 movies. It's like right off the bat.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Like,
oh yeah,
as far as like special effects goes, because it looked like she got stabbed in the head. Like, because you see that, the blade come out of her mouth and stuff. It's like, yeah. So, too bad. So sad.
Yeah. A little ways up north in NYC, the Boyle family is preparing to move. We meet the son, Bob, who is staring at this old picture of the Oak Mansion. A little girl had revealed herself in the window of the house, and Bob is staring at it like this thing owes him money. He really is. Bob has this like psychic combo with the girl in the picture and tells Lucy, his mom, that the girl warns him not to go over there. Lucy just kind of like shrugs it off though, and it seems kind of creeped out and tells him not to like talk about it.
Yeah, which Bob is kind of creepy for a kid, like blonde hair.
Hear me swallowing my water.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, and
big like, ass lips.
Yeah, and talking to himself almost, but like kind of creepy. Also, this is the second Fulci film that has a character named Bob in it.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yep, and this Bob is equally as creepy.
I don't
know. For like a 9-year-old kid.
Yeah, okay. All right. We skip back down to New Whitby, Boston. New Whitby isn't a real place, by the way. AKA Concord, because that's where they filmed these scenes. And we see the little girl, May, standing outside the house from the picture. And she's standing in the graveyard. She's standing in the graveyard and is being called back home by a woman who's mysteriously kind of just standing in the woods. We then see Dr. Boyle discussing the project and the death of his colleague, and that his colleague had killed his mistress and then himself. And also, it wouldn't be a Fulci movie without a cameo by the director who is portraying Dr. Mueller in this one.
Yeah, Fulci has a much larger cameo in this than he did in any previous movie. Like his on-screen time, that's like a few minutes.
Oh yeah,
right there. So,
while packing up, Lucy asks if Norman had visited his colleague's widow, and they have this discussion about death a little bit. And Lucy looks a little worried about what's going on.
Oh yeah, we gotta wait until we get there. But when they go back to what was the other town? New Whitfield or whatever.
New Whitney. Not New Whitney. Whitby.
Yeah, May is just creepy.
Yeah.
And her
I'm getting there.
Okay. Well, I'll wait then. Yeah, you keep going.
Okay. Also, so the voiceover for Bob. So the children spoke Italian. Just spoke Italian in the movie. Everyone else, like most of the other cast, were speaking English. So they did a voiceover for Bob, and he sounds like a girl going through puberty. Really?
Yeah, but that's kind of on par with a Fulci movie though, because like all of the three movies, none of the dialogue syncs up. You know, it's obviously been, recorded in post and stuff. So I mean, yep.
We watch as May is standing in front of the shop as the Boyle family travels from New York City to New Whitby. May has, I guess, like a vision. She has a vision of one of the mannequins suddenly getting decapitated. And as his parents get the keys for their new house, they do what any couple in the 80s would do. They leave their son in the car by himself. Of course, with the windows down. Make sure he has air.
Yeah.
While in the real estate office, the realtor tells says that Dr. Boyle has been there before, and it creates this awkward moment. But he tells her no, this is the first time I've been here. And we get the first reference to Freudstein from the guy on the phone from this scene, as the realtor is quick to correct him and says Oak Mansion instead of Freudstein Place. Back in the car, Bob and May have this shining moment. Do you know what I mean when I say shining? Okay, good. Yeah. So where they communicate telepathically to each other, well, they're speaking out loud, but they're like across the street, and it's like a 4-way street, so it's got some distance, and they're just talking to each other, and somehow they can hear each other.
Yeah, it's probably about a football field's length.
It's pretty far
from
away.
Each other, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just talking normally.
Yeah, so it is. It's like a very shining moment. It's like May herself has these powers, and Bob also shares these powers in a way, but he doesn't realize that he can speak without moving his lips or something I don't know. It's really weird.
Yeah, he's a regular Danny Torrance.
Yep. When the Boyles come back, there's an instant where they don't know where Bob is, and they just stand there looking around. But he's just playing with May's doll. But they took too long to show concern for me personally. If we had a kid and they went missing for a second, I'd freak the fuck out. But they're just standing in front of this office huh?
It's what is Bob just out running errands?
Yeah.
Also, what kind of fucking name is Bob for a kid? Obviously it has to be short for Robert.
You know how I feel about the name Bob.
Right.
You know how I feel about Bob.
I know, but obviously it has to be short for Robert, right?
Yes.
So why not just call him Robert?
Bob sounds like.
Yeah, well, Bob
beer
sounds
belly
like
man.
Yeah, Bob the Builder, maybe.
Yeah, he's like a tough man.
Yeah.
This little tiny, scrawny little long-haired, blonde-eyed or blue-eyed blonde kid is not a Bob.
No.
I think Fulci was okay, I gotta come up with a name that's not too Italian. And this would be easy. Bob.
I love how May in her, shining moment, she's telling Bob, you shouldn't have come here or whatever. And to me, it was just kind of like, it's kind of like, you can't wear them clothes around here, cuz.
Wow.
It was just pretty
Like,
funny.
you should have come to this neighborhood.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
What set you repping? You know what I'm saying?
It has that feel to it. Yeah. So they go to the house. The realtor disrespects some graves while she's there, by running them over with her Jeep.
Damn tombstones.
Damn tombstones. Or is it damn graves? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure she said tombstones.
Lucy points out that the house is the same one from the photo in New York that Bob had been staring at earlier. And Lucy kind of proceeds to have this staring contest with the house. Mr. and Mrs. Boyle have a little intense discussion because Lucy is already feeling the bad vibes and is bringing up that maybe her and Bob should have stayed in New York City. Norman's all like, but it's a vacation, and Lucy isn't impressed. I mean, I wouldn't mind a 6-month New England vacation, but that's just me personally. Norman's big point here is that he'll get paid $5 more grand a year for the project, which is roughly about $12,286. So it's almost like, it's a little over $2,000 a month right there. So, I mean.
Yeah, but it really boils down to how much would someone have to pay you to stay in a haunted ass house for 6 months?
Like that haunted? Or
that
just
haunted.
Like a little creepy?
Like knowing that there's like a beef jerky man living in the basement.
Beef jerky man! Oh my God.
Tell me you see it though.
Yeah.
Oh
okay.
man.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Sorry. Anyways.
I don't know. Like Dr. Frostein's in the basement and he's going to harvest me.
Yeah, is $12,000 enough for that? An extra $12,000?
No.
I guess to Dr. Boyle here it was.
I guess so. Lucy gets over it real quick when she starts to look at May's doll and Bob has brought home. And this doll is pretty creepy, bro. Like, it's rough looking. It has one arm and one leg missing. Lucy, like, freaks the fuck out and throws the doll saying, Bob's always bringing home that trash. Like, lady, chill.
It was at this point where I renamed Bob. Bob is now Bob the Trash Man. Always bringing home that trash.
She didn't need to talk about her child like that, though. Like, that's her own baby.
You know what? Bob's got more problems to deal with in this film than being called the Trash Man. Okay.
Norman drops the hint that Lucy needs to take her meds. Relatable.
It sounds like you've got some trauma to unpackage.
Yeah. So the babysitter Anne shows up, and we see this transition back to the decapitated mannequin that May saw. But the way it's shot and how they like put this together, it was like Lucy was the one seeing the vision.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because May's not in this.
Right.
I don't know. So Norman starts snooping around the house and finds a folder that says Frontstein written on it, and it's empty. Norman kind of sees the door move by itself too, which was kind of creepy. That was a pretty creepy moment in this movie. We hear a child crying, and there's constantly, like, throughout the movie, this child crying. Mm-hmm. But we never see where this sound is actually coming from. But I have a hypothesis. I have a theory. We'll talk about it in a minute. So Norman just kind of figures it's Bob, I guess, and tries to go check on him. And for some reason, like, he uncovers Bob to straighten his legs and then covers him back up. I don't know. And then Norman hears some bopping and creeping upstairs and gets his Ghostbuster on. But we find that he finds Anne opening the cellar that has been boarded up. Like, she's in there in the middle of the fucking night making all this noise, and he just like stares at her and then walks away.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, Anne, what are you doing? You know, and she's just like, oh, I'm making waffles.
she's all just making. Yeah, okay. At the library, Norman gets this sets up to pick up where Dr. Peterson, his colleague, left off. There's another interaction where the librarian is like, "You've been here before with your daughter," and Norman again is like, "No, I haven't, and I have a son." This is never explained.
No, it's not.
I'll get okay. It's part of my theory. We'll finish this, and then I have to get into my theory. Like, anyway, as Bob plays in the playground, as Bob plays in the graveyard, like a normal 6 to 8 year old does,
Sure.
he finds a gravestone of Mary Fraudstein. We get a nice close up of this old picture of the gravestone, just so we know what she looks like. Just make sure. May shows up and tells Bob that Mary isn't actually buried there. I don't know where she is.
Yeah, she's
we don't know.
Down by the river.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
we really don't know.
Yeah.
No. Norman starts to research Dr. Fraudstein and finds out that he was barred from practicing medicine. Lucy then finds a tomb in the middle of the house, and it's the tomb of Dr. Fraudstein. Who would have thunk it, Also, having this Victorian tomb in the middle of your house is kind of cool. Like, I kind of want a Victorian tomb in the middle of my house, just...
Which, it's really surprising that they didn't connect the dots. Like, okay, first off, you have a tomb in your parlor or whatever it is.
It's like they said a hallway, but it's more like a...
It's like a living room, parlor.
Yeah, it's like a living
that.
area.
Yeah. So you have that, but then you also have a cellar. So where do you expect the body to be buried exactly? It's just suspended in midair.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, well, it's because there's no body.
After finding the tomb, Lucy starts to hear some creepy things and obviously freaks out. Norman arrives home and finds crazed out Lucy, so it's medicine time for Lucy. And the next scene is Lucy waking up from like a nap, and she's like a totally different person, also relatable.
Her just waking up like all smiles, bright-eyed.
Oh yeah.
Just he glances over and there's just all these pills all over the table and stuff. It's like, yes, I see.
Good old, that's my buddy right there. Giving credit to the medication. Norman tells her that having a tomb in the house is pretty normal for the area because the ground freezes in the winter. So they just kind of bury Grandpa on the floor or whatever. Then Bob and Ann show up back at the house. And I guess Ann was supposed to be watching him when he was in the graveyard earlier. But Ann does not know how to do her job. I'm just going to say it. Anyway, Norman is trying to open the cellar door when they arrive, and Bob mentions seeing his girlfriend. Gross. Lucy confronts Anne about Bob seeing the girl. If like Anne had seen her, and Anne's like, I didn't see him. Nah. I was with him the whole time.
I think Anne was out there doing drugs.
Maybe. We also get the awkward shot of this loop between Norman, Lucy, and Anne.
There's like 4 or 5 like extreme close-ups, like back to back to back, which
just
is
eyes.
Common,
Fulci. Yeah.
So
once the cellar door is open, Norman goes down to investigate, and we have the bat scene. Also, by the way, the actress Catriona had a fear of bats and had to like confront it so she could be in this movie.
No, it's noticeable. It is noticeable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Girl.
I love that though. I love this scene because, what is it? Norman goes downstairs and he like shouts, and then Lucy immediately comes downstairs and is like, "What are you screaming about?" And then hilarity ensues. She's immediately attacked by this bat.
So the bat attacks Lucy, and she somehow gets it out of her hair, and then the bat attacks Norman, and then Norman attacks his hand. He rushes up to the kitchen and stabs the bat with a pair of scissors, and the special effects are a little off because when he stabs the bat, it like bleeds in 2 more extra spots than it should have.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets really gory. It gets really bloody. And Norman's waving the bloody bat in the air. And blood just splatters all over Bob.
Yeah. She's like, oh.
Oof. It had to be traumatizing.
Bob needs counseling after this, for sure.
Another fun fact. Paolo Molko, the Norman, he actually kept one of the bat puppets after production.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So the Boyles really want to move out now. It's been one day, man. It's been one day. And the realtor and her coworker have a spat about the name of the mansion. And she's really pushing the rebranding. Okay? She's really want to rebrand this place. And May, I don't know. We see her in this other house somewhere. And she's staring into the camera and says, "Don't go inside." And she's just constantly having, I guess, these premonitions about people going inside the house, but it's not really helping anyone at all. Not at all. The realtor, what was her name?
Mrs. Gittleson.
Gittleson. So Mrs. Gittleson goes up to the house to assume to talk to the Boyles out of leaving. And no one's home, but the door's just unlocked. She just helps herself in, unless she still has a key or something, but she shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, it is the 80s.
Yeah, true. She starts to hear the creepies and wanders around the house, and she steps onto the tomb. And in the middle of the tomb, it breaks and shit goes down.
See, it's at this point that I think Mrs. Gittleson intentionally disrespects the tombs and stuff, the graves, because one, she backed over a whole ass grave, and then she could have easily just walked around this tomb in the floor. Nope, she got to step on top of it. Yep, but you know what? You get what you reap what you sow.
Yes, she does. Her leg gets caught in the tomb, and we get this POV of the monster. The monster grabs a fire poker and just starts stabbing her with it, and there's a lot of blood. And it's kind of when kids find a dead body in the woods and they start poking her with a stick.
It's literally the monster's just poking her with his fire poker. But she's bleeding profusely at this point, and then he stabs her in the neck, and obviously a lot of blood and stuff, and then he pulls the fire poker out and it leaves a no shit perfect.
The perfect circle.
Yeah. Perfect circle in her neck.
I honestly think this was one of the bloodiest movie in the trilogy.
Yeah.
It definitely.
Her death was
excessive.
It was definitely a lot more gruesome than previous films.
The next morning, Lucy finds Anne cleaning up the blood from the realtor that leads down into the cellar. So, So this was the night they went to the candlelight lit dinner they were talking about at one point in the movie. So not only did this blood just stay on the floor throughout the night, they didn't see this. They didn't see it.
Yeah, Lucy made no mention of it when she came in and asked Anne what she was doing.
Well, Lucy asked what she's doing, and Anne is like, "I made coffee." And it's just to avoid the question. But that gets into my theory a little bit that I'll get into after we're done with this. And we get this awkward conversation between the two, and Lucy's just trying to get to know Anne, and Anne's not having it. Anne just ignores the hell out of Lucy. Straight up nothing.
can you blame her though? Like you've got to be super like unaware of your surroundings to see someone scrubbing blood on the floor and then ask them what they're doing.
True.
Like if I were Anne, yeah, I'd probably ignore you too. It's like what does it look like I'm doing? Bitch, I'm making ice cream. Like you shut the hell up.
She's making coffee.
Yeah.
Norman lets Lucy in on Dr. Peterson's research about Dr. Fraunstein and tells her he has to go up to New York City. So Bob and May are playing in the graveyard because Lucy has left him alone. And May warns him not to go in the house again. And then before heading back to New York City, Norman stops off at the library again and finds the cassette from the recordings of Dr. Peterson. And Peterson is unhinged.
Yeah.
We get some really gnarly scenes while Norman's listening to this tape, and then he burns the tape.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I'm watching these movies, I forget that they're supposed to be scary. So that scene with all the body parts in the basement was pretty nasty and shocking to me. Because, because the acting and stuff and everything's so over the top, it's almost humorous. And then sometimes you get something really creepy and gross, and you're like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be scary.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of like films today, like Terrifier, where Terrifier...
Oh my God.
It's really over the top and funny and stuff in some parts, but then other parts it's really like gruesome.
Being sawed in half.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. But,
that was pretty gross.
Which kind of makes sense because, these films today are probably taking influence from...
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, those films in the past.
Back home, Anne loses Bob and ends up in the cellar looking for him. She gets trapped and then she starts banging on the door, freaking out. And Bob is taking his sweet time trying to get her out of there because he's got to have his backup, which is a stuffed monkey that obviously is a Curious George doll, but he calls him Yogi. He also has this flashlight, and he's armed with this baby pink toy Colt Diamondback revolver. Anyways, our big bad beheads Anne with a kitchen knife. And I'm reminded why I love watching these movies.
It bothered me so much with Anne standing there with her back to the door. And she's just taking it. Like, no struggle whatsoever from Anne. She's just getting her throat cut up.
Yep.
Just another day in the old... Oak Mansion, as it were.
Yep. So Bob finally gets into the cellar, and he walks down the stairs, and then Anne's head comes tumbling after him like some Jack and Jill shit. Bob makes it out of the cellar, and Lucy comes home to find a freaked out Bob. The sound that the special effects head made coming down them stairs, they could have fixed that. It sounds like pots and pans being thrown because it's all hollow and like steel-like, and it's...
Yeah. I think I blocked it out, but yeah. Typically, you would have like a
thud. Know, like,
well, there's a thud, but like there's also like you have to have the sound of like
skin.
Well, there's that, but then there's like a wet smacking sound, like if you were to smack like a wet towel or something like that, Which that's your Foley artist doing their part, So, granted, depending on the budget, you might not have a great Foley artist, but
I guess. I just...
it could have been better.
Bob's like, Anne's head's gone, and Lucy's like, nah. She goes down to the cellar with Bob, okay, and the cellar appears to be pretty much decapitated head free. But we do get this very creepy eye in the dark moment. Like, those eyes are pretty fucking weird. Mm-hmm. Norman starts to look for Fraunstein's tomb, but is confronted by the groundskeeper and, because they're closed at Sunday, and tells him that Fraunstein's not buried here. And also, like, didn't Lucy show him the tomb in the house? She mentioned it. Like, it literally has Fraunstein's name on it.
Yeah. Yeah. oversight. It's an oversight.
So Lucy pretty much tells Bob to get over it. So he goes down to the cellar again and gets trapped. And we get more of those creepy, eerie, like, eye shots. And it's those eyes, man.
At this point, you'd think that Bob would stop going into the fucking cellar. Like, just stop going down there, dude. Golly. I literally, in my notes, I put in here twice that Bob's going to need some counseling after this. For sure.
Yeah. Lucy can't find the right key for the door because apparently you can't unlock the door from the inside of the cellar.
Of course
The
not.
scene went on for way too long, in my opinion, because the monster is taking his sweet-ass time up them stairs. And Norman shows up and takes the axe to the door, unknown to him that the big bad, who has been revealed to be Dr. Feinstein himself, is holding Bob's head to the door as Norman puts the axe to it a few times, barely missing Bob's head. It was pretty fucking intense.
Yeah, it was so bad that Freudstein got his arm taken off by the axe. But I'd also like to point out that, so Lucy's trying to unlock the door. She snaps the key off. And right at that time, Norman shows up. And Lucy just forgets all about Bob and the door. She turns around and, oh, hi, honey. And she gives him like a hug and stuff.
Is she really?
Well, yeah, she turns around and hugs him like she needs comforting. Like, your son is being attacked by this fucking beef jerky man.
I don't remember her like being like, oh, hi, honey. Because I think he scares her and she screams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she said, oh, hi, honey. But she definitely stops what she's doing and turns around. And it's like, come on now.
Well, Norman tells Lucy that Dr. Peterson found the truth and that's why he killed himself. And that it was actually Freudstein that killed the mistress. As Norman hits the door with the axe, he actually ends up chopping off one of Freudstein's arms, allowing Bob to escape his grasp. Just a little bit though. So it turns out that Freudstein needs human victims to stay alive by using their cells to renew his. It is never explained how he actually does this or anything. It doesn't explain how Norman got this information. It doesn't show him finding notes or listening to another cassette that this is like how he's doing this. Nothing.
So I think, now hear me out now, I think that one line from this Fulci movie was the spur that created Jeepers Creepers.
Okay, explain.
So by them saying that Freudstein uses his human victims' cells to keep himself alive, that's exactly what the creeper does in Jeepers Creepers. He
eats them.
He eats them, though.
And he like absorbs that part of the body.
Yeah. So
we don't support the Jeepers Creepers guy, by the way.
No.
But just so we know,
it's
still a really fucking good movie. It's fucking Justin Long, man.
Yeah, the first one, not the others. The others suck.
Okay, so we now get the showdown between the Boyles and Fraudster. Yes, I'm calling him Fraudster now. Norman manages to stab him, and ew, Fraudster is just full of mud and maggots and nasty bits.
So I said, he starts spilling out fucking Chef Boyardee. It's like SpaghettiOs coming out of him.
So nasty.
Hey, if it works.
Fraudster rips out Norman's throat. Lucy sees like this light from the ceiling and tries to escape with Bob through the crack in the cellar that actually is the crack from the broken tomb upstairs. She's not so lucky and ends up being dragged down the steps, knocking her head over and over on these metal steps, knocking her out. Bob tries to crawl out of the crack, and it seems like he's saved at the last second by May. May and Bob seem super happy to see each other. Like, this stuff didn't just happen to Bob. And then May's mom butts in, and May's mom is actually Mary Fraudstein. And she tells May that Bob will be staying in to mind her manners. The movie ends with May, her mom, and Bob walking hand in hand down the road. So yeah, Bob Bob didn't make it out either.
Oh, is that what it's alluding to? Mm-hmm.
Because that's Mary Frontstein. We saw her grave. We saw how like old she should have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's alluded that the Bob just became another ghost.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was kind of thinking that Bob just like, oh hey, yeah, let's leave, let's get out of here, and just left his parents down there in the cellar, you know. Which I get it. I mean, he's like 9, but still, that's pretty wild.
Before the end credits, we get the quote from Henry James: "No one will ever know whether the children are monsters or the monsters are children." And I think that's taken to the Turn of the Screw, from the Turn of the Screw. The novel that influenced the movie a little bit.
Well, it does make sense though. Ooh, what if May was the actual monster? She was like the puppeteer.
Interesting. So here's a few theories. My first theory has to do with how Lucy handles Bob when he says he hears or sees anything. I'm pretty sure that Lucy has suffered from some sort of mental illness, because obviously she's on medication. She doesn't want to take the medication because it makes them see things. And then every time that Bob brings up that he saw or talked to someone no one else sees, she gets a little weirded out and stuff. So I think maybe like some schizophrenia, something is running along in the family. And I think that's another reason why it took them so long to go to the realtor and be like, hey, gotta get out of this house. Because after she freaks out and she takes her medicine, it seems like everything's fine.
Yeah.
My second thing is, I think the whole town knows that Dr. Frontstein is still in the house. Because everyone acts kind of weird about it. And the realtor kind of ignores them when she sees them out and about in town. Also, I think the people who keep saying like, oh, we saw you here with your daughter to Norman, I think they're kind of alluding to that he resembles kind of Dr. Frontstein maybe in a way. And maybe they're kind of trying to give him a tip that, you know, hey, look into this kind of thing. Right. Or that could just be me. But there's just these, like, especially with Anne, because Anne is down there trying to open the cellar. She cleans up the blood without telling anybody about it. Like, it's super weird. And these little things that are just like, I think the town really knows what's going on here.
Right. So do you think Anne was just trying to keep everything hush-hush, like she was the inside person and...
Well, you know, she was sent over by the real estate agent to help with Bob. So I wonder if they had like this communication like, hey, we got a new family in this house. Can you make sure that, you know, things don't get too out of hand, or that they don't find anything that'll make them move away?
So she immediately opens the door to the cellar.
Well, she didn't open it. She just moved the she was trying to remove the boards and stuff.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe she's curious about what's down there herself.
Possibly. Which, I mean, she sure found out.
There's just a lot of things that aren't explained fully. To where you can kind of like come up with your own assumptions, I guess, for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is that poor Bob. You know, Bob never got that counseling he's so desired.
I mean, I don't know if they had counseling in like the ghost realm.
Probably. You know.
I mean, maybe he did then.
Matter of fact, in Beetlejuice, we see for a fact they are counselors.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So, I don't know. You know, all we can say is, you know, good luck and fare thee well, young Bob.
Yes, young Bob. I hope you found happiness in the afterlife, I guess. So, we are done with the Gates of Hell trilogy.
Thank Jeebus.
How you feeling?
I don't know. Like, these are some of the strangest films I've ever seen, I feel like. And I've seen a lot of movies, but like there's just a lot that's not explained. There's a lot that's kind of out of the ordinary, I guess. And for it to be a trilogy, they don't really make sense together.
Yeah, also, this one doesn't have any reference to a gate to hell.
Yeah.
Because in the other two, there was like some sort of like message about hell opening or the gate opening, but here there's nothing about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's the only
Yeah, not the greatest.
Inconsistentive. What is it?
Unconclusive.
Unconclusive, I guess. That'll work too.
Yeah. But yeah, I probably will, if I can help it, never watch these movies ever again.
Okay.
And I can't wait to move on to our next film.
Yep. It's yep. Yep. It's definitely the next film we're watching is another one about a haunted house.
Nice.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
I guess that wraps up things here.
Yep. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, not watching.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Absolutely.
Yep.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yee.
And please be sure to tune in next week when we have another fantastic episode for you planned. And as always, stay spoopy.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Bye. Thanks a bunch for tuning in to And I Made Him Watch, hosted by Danny Page. This episode was meticulously researched and crafted by the one and only Danny Page, with all the technical magic and editing wizardry provided by yours truly, Troy Allen. Our fantastic music was composed and performed by the incredible Tori Wolf, with a big shout out to Epidemic Sound for the tunes. As we wrap up this episode, gear up for the next thrilling installment of And I Made Him Watch, where Danny once again takes the reins, making me watch The Changeling. Get ready for the excitement and surprises that await in our podcast adventure. Keep those popcorn bowls ready, and thanks for joining us on this film-filled ride.